Thursday, August 24th, 2023, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So, the petrodollar. And I've been covering the petrodollar for about 6 years. And I've said many times in the past that the challenge to the petrodollar would take a long time. It would be like changing tack in a super tanker that carries oil, not changing tack in a Boston whaler or a dinghy. And in one of my videos from 6 years ago, from September 6th, I said China delivers knockout blow to petrodollar, and it was a part one. And at the time, they were creating a lot of infrastructure, like in commodities exchanges, gold and futures exchanges, in Shanghai, international exchanges. And I said this would eventually be used in the new system. And here we are, 6 years later. And the BRICS, under the leadership, of course, of really China, they've invited Saudi Arabia to join BRICS. So I think this is really the final nail in the coffin of the petrodollar, and there's very little the United States and the West can do about it. So we're going to look at that quickly today. Before I start, I like to say, yeah, you're going to hear a lot of stories, and you've been hearing about this Russian mercenary who died in a plane crash. He's the equivalent of Eric Prince, a guy who created Blackwater, which is an American mercenary company, much like the Russian Wagner. But believe it or not, they've had to change the name of this company like 3 or 4 times. So it's not called Blackwater anymore. It's called Constellas. But basically, that's what Prigozhin and Wagner are. They're just like the Russian equivalent, Eric Prince and Blackwater. And it's a good story to cover to take people's attention away from something that should really be focused on, something that's going to affect not just the United States, but Western Europe, the move away from the petrodollar. That's going to be massive, and we're already seeing the consequences of that. So let's look at the story then. So this has come out about an hour ago, and it's come out on Reuters, which is the mouthpiece of the Rothschild international banking cabal. Yes, look up the person who started Reuters. It was back in the 1800s. And yeah. Anyway, BRICS set to invite Saudi Arabia to join. And actually, it came out from Bloomberg News. So Reuters is reporting a Bloomberg News story. So there you go. Another mouthpiece for the international bankers, Bloomberg News. Major emerging market nations are preparing to invite Saudi Arabia to join BRICS, Bloomberg News reported on Thursday, citing people familiar with the talks. Leaders from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa have agreed to expand their group, which would be the first expansion since 2010, the report said. Egypt is another nation being invited to join, along with others in the Middle East, the report added. So, how does the petrodollar work? Well, I'll give you a brief background history on the petrodollar. Back in August 15th, 1971, President Nixon closed the gold window, basically said that the U.S. would not convert the dollar into gold at $35 an ounce. He said they were like suspending the convertibility temporarily, but that became for good. Really, they still don't convert the dollar back into gold. So they basically defaulted. So the dollar was backed by nothing, and you couldn't have a world reserve currency backed by nothing. So what the Americans and the international bankers did is they created this oil crisis of the 70s, along with the Middle Eastern countries. They both benefited from it. The Saudis and other Arab countries, they got a lot more revenue and became rich beyond their dreams. And the Americans were able to go there and say, with Henry Kissinger, of course, that they would help them build their infrastructure to become a modern society, and build roads, and also, aside from that, help protect the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, because there is a lot of animosity vis-a-vis the state of Israel. But there, with one condition, though, that the Saudis would only sell their oil in U.S. dollars, and they would take those U.S. dollars and recycle it into U.S. treasuries or into any other U.S. dollar investment. And why was that important? Well, because the Saudis were the biggest oil producers, really, in the OPEC cartel. And if Saudi Arabia was going to do that, everyone had to fall into place. And other countries that didn't have oil, when they were buying oil, they had to pay for it in dollars. So that has been the case since, well, for almost 50 years now. And that's what gave the dollar its strength, the petrodollar. But that's been waning. Some countries have tried in the past to get away from selling oil in dollars, like Saddam Hussein tried. And you know what happened to him. And Muammar Gaddafi, you know what happened to him. But now, this is all changing because you've got Russia and China, which are very powerful countries, who set up this group, the BRICS, and they've been setting up the infrastructure. I spoke about that, of course, in that video from 2017, and so have the Russians. The Russians recently, they've even signed a security agreement cooperation with the Saudis. Well, recently, I say, but it was already 2 years ago, a week or so after the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan on August 15th, 2021, and they left a mess there. And Saudi Arabia saw, can we really trust the Americans to fulfill their security end of the petrodollar? And they thought, maybe, maybe not. It's not certain. So Russia now is a big part of that. We saw in December last year, Xi Jinping get the royal treatment, literally, of course, by the Saudis. I think it was December 7th that he went for a state visit in Saudi Arabia. And I bet you they talked about what's been said today about inviting Saudi Arabia to join the BRICS. And instead of China buying oil from Saudi Arabia in dollars, it's going to be in yuan. And you can bet other countries are going to probably buy oil from Saudi Arabia in their own currencies, or the Saudi rial, because that's one of the major objectives of the BRICS, is to de-dollarize and to use their own currencies to do business with each other. Yes, there are going to be some currencies that are going to be more widely used because some countries do more trade, like China, Brazil, or even Saudi Arabia. So what that's going to do, and it's already been doing, in my opinion, is lower the demand for our currencies in the West, especially the dollar. And unfortunately, I think Americans are going to feel that even more because they've had that exorbitant privilege of not having to earn other currencies for international trade, because they can just print the dollars and go and buy whatever they want. Now, maybe America will have to think about having foreign exchange reserves for once. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but all it will mean is that America will have to earn its way in the world. Of course, a lot could happen before that happens. There's the old Thucydides trap, right? That an old or waning empire will fight to the end to stop other challengers. So that's what's happening. I think it's huge. And as I said, these things don't happen overnight, just like I said in 2017. And I recommend you watch that video that I did then. It's one of my best videos in terms of views. And this too, the BRICS, Saudi Arabia and other countries joining, the effects of it will not happen tomorrow or next week. It's going to be over the next months and years, but it will impact the rest of the world, and it will be huge. It's a huge change. And you won't hear that too much in the West. I mean, you hear the news like Reuters has brought out, or Bloomberg News, but they will say it's not a big deal. And so there you go. With that, let's quickly look at where the markets are this morning. It's 8:30 a.m. London time. So gold and silver actually had a good day after I did my video yesterday. Some people will say it was driven by lower bond yields. So why did treasury yields and gilt yields drop? Well, we had some very weak PMI numbers. They dropped below 50 in the UK. In the US, they dropped to near 50. Any of those numbers below 50 point to a contraction in the economy. Do I think bonds are out of trouble? No, I think they're still in trouble. Does that mean that gold and silver are going to go back down? Not necessarily. But anyway, right now we've got spot gold at 1922. It's up about $7. High has been 23. The low has been 1909. Silver seems to be taking a breather, or maybe it's one of the ways to slow down the precious metals, if you know what I mean. Silver's down 14 cents, or 0.5%, at 24.16. High's been 37, low's been 10. Dow futures is down 9. NASDAQ is up 189. I guess there's something out there that I haven't seen, some kind of aftermarket earnings. Could it be NVIDIA? I don't know. It's not something I follow closely, to be honest. S&P 500 is up 26. And the FTSE is up 42 points. To the currencies, sterling is down 0.2, 127.03. The euro is unchanged, 108.52. The dollar is up 0.25%, 145.15 versus the yen. The dollar is down slightly versus the yuan at 728. Look at the ruble. So the dollar is trading at 94.20. I think it's pretty much where it was yesterday. versus the ruble. Not much change there. So to the other currencies, Aussie dollar is down a third, 64.60. The dollar is unchanged versus the Canadian dollar, 135.35. The Kiwi dollar is down 0.4 at 59.54. To the commodities, WTI crude is down 0.7% at 78.30. Brent is down 0.6, 82.42. Platinum is down a couple of bucks at 930. High grade copper is down 0.2%, trading around 381. The 10-year yield is at 4.18, so it's down another 2 basis points. I think it dropped about 12 yesterday, which I thought was quite quite a big move. The 2-year gilt yield, that's unchanged. It's just below 5%. It's trading at 4.96. The 10 years come off as well. That's at 4.43. And the 30-year as well. That got up to almost 5 recently. We're now at 4.67. As I said, I think these are just corrections in a bull market in yields, which is a bad thing, of course. A bull market in yields means a bear market in prices. I think a lot of the mainstream City of London, Wall Street economists, they think just because you might have a recession, a slowdown, that these government bonds are going to go through the roof and yields are going to implode. I'm not too sure about that. But anyway, with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.